Okay, this is a video overview of a standard operating procedure. The operating procedure that we're looking at is resends, that's sending resend emails in ActiveCampaign. So the way this video works is it is basically a recording of the slideshow version of the SOP. So the only way that this differs from the slideshow version of the SOP is that you have this commentary. So it's intended as an introduction, probably something that you would watch once, and then you can then use the other versions of the SOP. Speaking of which, what we have here is the Google Doc version, so that's just a basic overview, the PDF version, which is basically the same, but you can't edit that. The PDF version is good as a backup if you can't get online for any reason. The Trello card is a good checklist version if you want to use that. The video that's mentioned here, it differs from this video in that this video, meaning the one that you're watching now, is the actual SOP. So it only deals with the precise tasks, whereas this video that's mentioned here, the YouTube one, is more of an explainer video. It goes into much more in-depth detail, but it's in no way as focused as this SOP video. And lastly there's a PowerPoint version of the slideshow if you use PowerPoint. And links to all these different versions are available, as you can see, on this slideshow, and the GDocs, and basically most of the formats have links to other formats, so they're all easily accessible. So as I've explained, this is a video of the actual slideshow, and what you're seeing here is the slideshow in presentation mode. There's also an edit mode, which is the mode that you use when you're actually putting the slides together, so you can move the slides around. Each task usually has a link that says show. So the show link clicks to a GIF, which shows, it's an animation that shows the actual task. That said, as you'll see on the slides, each slide instruction is followed by the actual GIF, so you don't need to actually click on to the show link unless you particularly want to. Okay, task one. So what we're doing is we're opening the automation, we're finding the original email within the automation. By original email, we're talking about the one that we want to duplicate in order to resend. So we're selecting it, and then we're going to proofread it to make sure everything is exactly as we want it to be. Okay, so let's take a look. So we're in the automations, we're selected the automation itself, and now we're looking for the original email. This is the one that we want to duplicate. So there it is there, click on it, click on edit. And what we're doing here is we're basically doing a proofread, so we'll read through it, make sure everything is absolutely as we want it to be. The reason is because we're making a duplicate, so if we do have to make any changes, then going forward we'll need to make changes to both the original and the resend. And then we save and exit. Okay, so the next task is to find the resend email placeholder. Think of this placeholder as just being an empty container within the automation. So what we're going to do is take the original email, place it into this container, and then edit it so it becomes its own separate entity, and then save it. Okay, so let me just show you that. So just to give you some context within the automation, that's the original email up there. If we move down below, that's where we usually find the resend. So we click on it, and then we're looking for the original email in this list here. So there it is. And then we'll click on here, we can do a copy and edit. So we're making a copy of that original. So the copy of that original now exists within that placeholder. Okay, so the first edit we're going to make is to change the subject line. So we click on next. There's a subject line there. Click on edit. We're adding the word resend, but also what I'm doing here is I'm changing the subject line. So that's an optional thing. You might want to use the same subject line, or you might want to change it because it's a resend. But what is important is that you add the word resend. Okay, so add the word resend there, and that helps people to identify it just gives people the choice whether they want to open it or not, and you're probably less likely to annoy people rather than if you just keep sending the same email without identifying it as being a resend. Okay, the next edit task, we're going to add the pre-header text. So when you make a copy, what I've discovered is the pre-header doesn't copy over. So what's a good idea is, if you have a record of it somewhere, so I have this in my database here with the subject lines and such, so I'm just simply copy it and paste it into there like that. So whether you use the pre-header text or not, it's entirely optional. It'll show up on some email clients and not on others. But if you do want to use it, then you need to put that in there. Okay, so the next task, we're going to edit the message name. So this is an important one. This is how we identify it. It's like the file name. So what I do is I add a 1 onto the original. You just ignore this. This is just me marking off the task on Trello there. Right, so that's the message name there. So all I'm doing, that's my reference. So I know how to identify it. I just add 0.1 to the end. Delete copy there, obviously, and change it to resend. It's as simple as that, really. So it's exactly the same as before, except it has the word resend and the 0.1, and save, obviously. Alright, so an extra note here. This is something that I do as a best practice, really, and it's just a case of referencing the actual automation that the resend is featured in. This is because the same email can be featured in numerous automations. So when you're coming back to reference that email within another automation, you want to make sure that you're selecting the right one. So we're just selecting the automation reference there, copying it, and then I just put it into brackets there at the end. And that just differentiates this particular one from the same email in another automation. Okay, so now we're going to go into the actual email edit window. This is where we edit the email itself. We're going to make some slight changes. On the right hand side here, these are all saved blocks that can be used within any email. So this is standard stuff, and you can basically just drop and drag over there. So I have a resender header, which I put at the top of every resend, which basically makes it clear that it is a resend, and it's as simple as that, really. We're going to now repeat that process with a footer, which gives the option to stop the resends. So we're just replacing the original footer with what we call a resend footer. So you just drop and drag it over there, and obviously delete the original one. So that's the new one. Sorry, that's the old one, and we're going to delete that. Now we're just going to check that all the formatting looks okay. So there's two checks we can do. One is in the desktop view. So just do a quick check within the editor there, and then we go to next. Desktop view just gives you an approximation of what it should look like on an email client, and we're just really checking to see everything looks more or less as we expect. The resender header is there, all the spacing looks okay, and the resender footer is there. So that's the desktop view. So an optional extra check that you can do is to add your email to the send test and send that, and then check it in your email client. So you just add your own email there, send test, and then this is what I received in my email client. Again, we're just checking everything looks okay. The resender header's there, spacing all looks fine. You can check the links here as well if you want, but you should have already done that in the original, so it should all be fine. So that all looks good. Right, so now we're going to go back into the automation. What we're going to do is delete the original placeholder so we don't have any confusion. So what I usually do is my original resends, the placeholders have resend at the beginning. So we just open it up there like that, and we check in just to make sure, because it can't be undone once that's deleted. So we know that's definitely not the new one, so we can delete that. That's the old one. Now I'm going to go into the automation, find the email, the resend email, the new one within the automation, and do the same thing. Basically we're just checking it, and click on edit, and yeah, we can see that is definitely the right one. So we know that's all good. So if you anticipate or know that this email might be used in another automation, then it's a good idea to save it as a template, because that means you can then use it within any other automation. So it's pretty simple. Just go there into edit, save as template, and then go to save and exit. It's not saved yet. And then it shows up in the template window there. Right, so we're going to check the weights and rules actions. Because we've just deleted the original placeholder email, the rules and weights, the conditions that were attached to that original need changing. So when we go into these weights and conditions here, usually the new one should appear up near the top there somewhere. So in this case that is the case. Save. And then we repeat that with these conditions here. You can see there's blank spaces, and we replace. Now if there isn't a blank space, that doesn't mean to say that it's all okay. You still have to make those changes. And then just an extra little check. It's not usually an issue, but you can check this just in case. We just want to see if there's any more rules or conditions or weights that are attributed to this new email and make this changes. So we're just following through the automation up until the next email, just to see if there's any references to that email, which there isn't, so we're good. Okay, so although that is pretty much it as far as this particular SOP is concerned, at the end of the slide presentation you will see this. This we touched on briefly when I showed you how to create a template. This is because when we're doing resends, there is this option. There are different ways of doing it basically. So this is another one. I don't have a full SOP for this, but there is a checklist for this on the Trello card, the same Trello card. If you want to pause this video, then obviously you can have a look at this, but I would just keep that there as an option. It's, it's followable. So other than that, if you've got any questions, then contact me, send me an email. Otherwise, best of luck with it.